Welcome to Friend or Foe, the series where I analyze characters from our favorite games and figure out if they would be good to hang out with, or whether you might want to avoid them at the next party. I'm Josh Bearheart Hawk, and in this episode, we're taking a look at one of the most controversial characters from TellTale Games' The Walking Dead Season 1, Larry. As always, I've created a playlist for this series, so you can easily keep up with it and watch every episode available anytime. I'll link that in the description down below. So, just who is Larry? Prior to the beginning of the outbreak, Larry was a retired army commander. He lost his wife at some point in the distant past, and the only family he has left when the dead start rising is his daughter Lily. The first time we meet Larry is inside Everett's pharmacy in Macon, Georgia, as he's yelling at a couple members of the group he's been holed up with, Carly and Glenn, for venturing outside to rescue another group that needed help. He's angry with them for risking the safety of the group, and especially Lily for bringing in strangers and potentially zombies. As he assesses the new members, he notices that one of them, a child, is covered in muck after being attacked by one of the zombies in the street, and he worries that the boy may have been bitten. As if that's not enough, he also recognizes that one of the new people looks strikingly familiar to a convicted killer he'd seen on the news before the outbreak really took off. A man by the name of Lee Everett. Shockingly, the man doesn't just look like Lee, it is Lee. In the midst of arguing about the boy that he's sure is bitten, the little girl the new group brought in with them winds up being attacked by a zombie that had been hiding in a bathroom, and a gunshot used to put that zombie down draws the attention of the horde outside. Thankfully, machine gun fire in the distance draws them away, but the stress causes a pain in Larry's chest that brings him to the ground. He has coronary heart disease and suffers from bouts of chest pain when his heart starts working too hard. Normally, he would take nitroglycerin pills, but he's not had access to those in a few days. In fact, that was the whole reason they came into the pharmacy in the first place, in the hopes of getting enough pills to keep his angina at bay. But that idea was quashed when they discovered the actual pharmacy was locked, the key nowhere to be found. As he's lying on the ground trying to relax his heart, Lee comes over and begins talking to Lily. Larry isn't thrilled by this development, but he has no say in the matter, as the only slim hope he may have of getting the nitroglycerin pills lies in the hands of Lee. Larry knew going in that the pharmacy was tied to the Everett family, but he never expected to see the famed killer himself in the flesh. It isn't too long before the pharmacy is cracked open, but the whole thing goes downhill fast when an alarm is tripped. There's a scuffle as zombies start breaking into the store, and one of the men in the new group, Kenny, runs off to secure a vehicle as the rest of the group leaves the store. But Larry isn't planning on taking Lee with them, and a single thrust of his fist is enough to knock the man on his backside while everyone else loads up in the alleyway. Despite his best efforts, Larry is disappointed to see that Kenny went back for the killer, and as the group settles in at a nearby motor inn for the night, he takes a few minutes to let Lee know what he knows. As far as he's concerned, Lee is a danger to the group, putting Lily and Clementine, the little girl Lee seems to have taken custody of, at risk. Over the course of the next few months, Larry helps lead the charge to secure the motor inn. His prior military experience comes in handy as they work to fortify the place and ration out food and medical supplies. They're even able to bring in a man who'd been hiding in a commissary storage closet on the nearby Air Force base alongside a decent amount of food. After a couple of months, though, that food starts running really low and tempers start soaring. As if things couldn't get any worse, Lee, Mark, and Kenny return to camp one day with 2 extra people in tow, one of them having been injured and appearing to be on death's doorstep. When Lily pointed out how crazy they were for bringing in more mouths to feed, Kenny started disrespecting her once more, and things blew up. Larry points out that Lily has been the one handling the hard decisions, like who to feed with the limited rations each day, before going to help Mark work on the wall at his daughter's behest. At this point, 3 months into the outbreak, Larry is still keeping a close eye on Lee, but he does show a little bit of softness to his demeanor if Lee makes sure that the kids are fed. He'll also seem almost nice, at least compared to his normal demeanor, if Lee feeds him and if he finds out from Mark that Lee recognizes he's just trying to look out for his daughter.
Come on, Larry. Cut Lee some slack. He knows you're just out to protect Lily. He told me so. Just like he's trying to protect Clementine.
I just need some food. Going this long without a proper meal make anybody cranky.
Not long after the new people were brought into the camp, Larry responds to some commotion near where Katja had been working on the dying man. The man has turned into a zombie, and Lee is fighting it off. If Doug is at the camp, and Lee gave his axe to Larry, the old man will rush over to save Lee's life. And this is where the new kid, Ben, drops the news that everyone is infected. Before Larry or anyone in the group can process the new information, a couple of guys show up with promises of food and safety on their farm. Having gone weeks without a proper meal, everyone in the group jumps at the chance to get some good grub. Lee and a couple of the others go to check the place out, with two of them returning hours later talking about an electric fence and fresh biscuits. Larry and the remainder of the group make their way out to the farm, arriving just in time to see Mark and Lee standing with the brothers who own it. It's clear something bad happened, and it turns out Mark had been shot with an arrow. The family matron, Brenda St. John, takes Mark inside to get him cleaned up while everyone else explores the farm. Larry and Lily wander over and spend some time relaxing at the gazebo near the house. Larry is enjoying the change of scenery, and he's looking forward to the promised meal that Brenda is preparing. Speaking of Brenda, Larry gets a chance to spend some time with her on the porch of the house, and he can actually be seen laughing. It's clear he's been lonely for a long time, and the fact that anyone can make him smile is a minor miracle. When dinner is finally served, everyone is ready to dig in, except for Lee. He shows up late to the meal, and then comes back from washing his hands to try to stop everyone else from eating. Larry gets rather upset at the pause in festivities, but when Lee tells him that the meat is human meat, he's ready to burst. His attitude shifts, however, when Brenda confirms Mark is the main course, and he can't believe he ever liked the woman. Lee gets knocked out, and the St. John brothers escort Larry, Kenny, Lily, Clementine, and Lee's unconscious body to the dry storage room at the back of the barn. Larry spends a few minutes angrily pounding on the door, yelling threats at the St. John's, before a sudden pain in his chest stops him cold. His eyes go wide as he realizes this isn't normal pain. He's suffering from cardiac arrest. His heart has stopped beating. He gets one last glance at his daughter's panicked face before everything goes black. So that's Larry's story. But would he be someone that you would want to hang out with? I tried to empathize as much as possible, looking at things from Larry's perspective and trying to get inside his head. Let's lay out a couple of things that I think are important for him as a person. For one, he retired from the United States Army, meaning he spent a significant portion of his life in the military and probably brings a lot of baggage from that experience to his personality. He's rough around the edges, to say the least, and a lot of that could be explained from being used to barking out orders and having them be followed with no questions. According to Lily, he's also experienced a lot of loss in his life, which has hardened him over the years. The only thing he has left in the world is his daughter, and he's terrified of losing her as well. We also need to really think about how he saw Lee in the beginning, and recognize the internal struggle that he was probably going through. Depending on what kind of news coverage Lee's trial received, it's possible Larry heard a lot of awful things about him. Imagine being in the situation yourself. You're just trying to survive in what seems to be a world-ending event, trying to protect the one and only person that you have left in the world. And into your life walks this guy who you know killed someone in cold blood. Would you look fondly at that person? Or would you be constantly on your guard against them? Maybe he could have been nicer to everyone overall, but was he actually a bad guy? Or was he just an old man who'd been through hell who just wanted to protect his daughter and keep people safe? Is Larry a friend or a foe? This is one I really had to think on. Larry is probably one of the most complex characters in the game when you really break him down. The knee-jerk reaction by most people is to just hate him, and that's really how the writers intended it to be. He acts a lot like an anchor for Lily and a sort of foil for Lee in a narrative sense, and it makes it really hard to like him in any way. That being said, I'm actually going to list Larry as a friend. Overall, his intentions for the group are good, even as he goes about helping in the worst way possible. He's crude, brash, and yells a lot, but he cares deeply and wants everyone to survive. While he tries to stop Lee from coming with them at first, he does wind up saving Lee's life later on if given the chance, and his primary concern that first night in the Motor Inn is to make sure Lee knows what's at stake.
Or, everyone will know that you, Lee Everett, are a killer, and you were before it was something you had to do to stay alive. I know who you are. And I don't give a shit about what happens to you. But if anything happens to my daughter or that little girl you've got with you, you watch your ass.
I also want to take a moment to address the situation in the locker after Larry goes down. I've seen it said in several places at this point that he was a goner and that there was no chance CPR would bring him back. The fact is that, based on what we see, Larry is suffering a cardiac arrest, which is different from a heart attack in that the heart just stops beating. Heart attack victims are typically awake for a while and don't normally collapse as fast as Larry did. Cardiac arrest usually does require a defibrillator and medical attention to recover from, but there are documented cases where the heart has restarted on its own shortly after stopping, with CPR helping to keep the blood flowing in the system until this happens. There's even a term for it: Lazarus syndrome. It's incredibly rare, but it is worth mentioning. Even with that possibility being present, however, it was unlikely Larry would be walking out of that storage room. Kenny was right to be worried, though I really wish that there would have been an option that wasn't so messy. But I want to know what your thoughts are on whether Larry is a friend or a foe. Do you agree with my conclusion, or am I dead wrong? This series is all about putting ourselves in the shoes of these characters and trying to understand their motivations. It's easy to look at the characters that are supposed to be bad and write them off without a second thought, but that doesn't help us learn anything at all. Getting in the habit of looking at characters and people in a three-dimensional way can help us to find common ground and bring a little more light into what is often a dark world. After you get done commenting, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you aren't already. If you want early access to videos, you can join the channel as a member, or you can head over to Patreon, where I share things like behind-the-scenes posts and writing from whatever book I happen to be working on at a given time. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.